Welcome back, everyone, after lunch. I hope you had a great lunch, and I hope you're ready for the afternoon session of the Expandeo conference. We're going to change gears a little bit, and we're going to introduce you to two different projects. I'm not going to take away too much information, but we start with the Harmonia Project first. So before we start, I would like to invite you to use Slido, as we have been doing over the last 2 days, for all your questions. This is both for the people online as well as for people in the room, to give everyone who's joining an equal opportunity to ask questions and to vote questions up and down. You know how it works. So check out the link that is on your screen right now. Go to slido.com with this event code, and it will be fairly self-explanatory. The aim of this session today is to connect the urban and Earth observation communities and increase awareness of Earth observation solutions through the Harmonia Project. And this is what we're going to talk about today with 4 panelists, 2 in the room and 2 online. So equal distribution of speakers in true hybrid format. My name is Remco Timmermans. I'm the CEO and founder of SpaceSide, a marketing and social media agency for space and Earth observation. And I'm also the Earth observation evangelist on the Fire Forum that we talked about yesterday for urban development. With me, I'll start in the room, if that's okay. I have Giulia Neranzia-Torti from the Politecnico di Milano, and she is the coordinator of the Harmonia Project. We have Evangelos Gerasopoulos, who is the director of the Greek GEO Office and the research director at the National Observatory of Athens, and also the pilot leader of the Eiffel Project. And then online, we're honored to have Alderwoman Audrey Lust of the municipality of Ixelles, one of the areas here in Brussels, with the portfolio, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Lust, of climate, energy and health of the city. And then also online we have Mr. Dimitri Banoussis, who is an expert of the Green Fund of the Ministry of Environment and Energy in Greece. So welcome everyone, and we will start right now with giving you the floor to introduce yourself. So I would like to start with you, Giulia, to give us a little overview of what Harmonia is and why we're together here in Brussels today.
Thank you very much. Sorry, yeah. Good afternoon to everybody. I would like to introduce Harmonia Project. Harmonia Project is the title actually is Development of Support System for Improved Resilience and Sustainable Urban Areas to cope with climate change and extreme events based on GEOs and advanced modeling tools. We have actually, I thought we were going to change the slides. I'm changing the slide. So, okay. No, it's okay. But I didn't.
point up there, Giulia. Point up there.
Okay. Sorry.
The other button.
Okay. So, Harmonia Project, we have 22 partners, 4 academias, 9 companies, 4 research institutes, 1 NGO, and 4 municipalities. So, Milan, Sofia, Piraeus, and Ixelles. We have the main representative here, and we are very happy for that. Okay. Here is actually the main diagram for our project that we can see. Harmonia Project is collecting different type of data from satellites, from socioeconomic data for citizen observation, also data sources from existing open services as GEOS, Copernicus, ESA, different local and regional data and all of this, we have an access route, online open access and properties and commercial data. We collect all this data in order to make a data preparation with climate indexes, essential varieties, downscale this data, and with data cubes and data integration, we are having an intelligent framework on atmospheric forcing and weather reanalysis, climate change at the city level, ecological indexes, geotechnical indexes, air quality, urban mobility, and other tools for adaptation and mitigation. So the aim of our project is to create the integrated resilience assessment platform for urban environment. So having all of that, we are going to create climate baseline assessment, assessing recent changes and trends, and with short-term future changes and impact of preparedness. And also we have a decision support in long terms and planning as baselines and work towards the cases, as also we are going to support these two main lines, climate change mitigation, with housing stocks, with land uses, with transport infrastructures, community participation, but at the same time, the climate adaptation, reducing the impact of the extreme events, preparing the slow onset and with all the different changes as sea level rises, floods, precipitation, temperature, urban heat flux, drought, wildfires, landslides, atmospheric compositions, and with all of this, Harmonia system will have a cutting-edge technologies and services in order to provide integrated solutions for mitigation and adaptation to climate change. Mainly, I'm trying to change, okay? We can see here the different cities that we are testing. As you can see, we have different elements testing in each city. For example, in Milano, we have air pollution, urban heat island, flood, and I mean, it depends all the time, urban greening. While in Excel, we have a relationship between traffic and air quality and weather variable, impact of urban planning decision on the behalf of urban environment and degradation, and urban mobility. Discussing with city, we did some changes from the initial proposal, and of course we are trying to collaborate and to work together with the cities. Going further, I'm not going to stay in each city now. I would like to point out the fact that we are trying to work closely with the municipalities, with local administrators, with urban planners and decision makers in order to collect the needs to receive support, better support and information decision process from them. And also we need also to have a decision support system. We need to inform the climate change hazard and to get awareness for the potential risks. And we are doing at the same time early warning services. We need also to get raw data from the platforms and to use in a tool for training and evaluation of the model. And finally, the Harmonia aims to unite all relevant stakeholders about the issues of the climate change, and the Harmonia platform will be user friendly. This is what we are aiming, and allow the stakeholders not only to understand but also to visualize the impact of climate change across different environments, and also to use our system. We will enhance system preparedness to respond the specific prediction, such as floods, dust storms, to protect from the resilience assessment. And finally, if we have 1 minute, we can see the video that we have prepared. Is it possible to put the video on? No.
Europe's climate is changing. Our summers are getting hotter. And the air in our cities is more polluted. Our cities need to adapt. Data from Earth observation and GEOS can help us monitor and analyze air quality, heat waves, sea levels rising, sinkholes and flash floods. Harmonia is a consortium of European stakeholders pooling data together to understand better how to mitigate climate change effects. Harmonia provides cities and their citizens with a new generation of Earth observation solutions that bring together different types of data about our planet to visualize, forecast and understand the local impact of climate change and what to do to mitigate its effects. With access to the user-friendly Harmonia platform, we can better understand climate change and adapt our cities for a greener and more sustainable future. Let's help our communities be more resilient. Join us.
All right, well, thank you very much for that introduction, Julia. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
I would like to switch now to Mrs. Lust, and we have the unique opportunity here, and that's, I guess, a unique element of this project, to actually talk to the key stakeholders, the customers that we like to talk about from the EO bubble. So, Mrs. Lust, I would like to give you the floor and give your vision on the Harmonia project and everything that it tries to achieve.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you. So here in Excel, of course, we fight against climate change. We have a climate action plan. First of all, a few information about Excel, the population density. You can see also that we have 2 major universities and over 100 languages. And where can I put this away? Yes. And the share of foreign national in the total population is about 50%. I won't talk about that. The goals of Excel and of our climate action plan is to reduce by 55% CO2 emission on Excel territory by 2030, and also to implement as many adaptation solutions as possible. The challenges to overcome are a COVID crisis, of course, a necessary participatory approach, which is very important to us. Excel's population need to take part of the development and implementation of the plan, and also just transition. None should be left out, especially vulnerable citizens. And an expensive program requiring ambitious budgets. And you may know that municipalities have lots of problems regarding budgetary reason. A climate action plan with objective or 150 actions. It's a mix of mitigation and adaptation regarding administration and also territory, so internal and external. Action targeting 5 main thematics areas. And we have a tool called Future-Proofed. It's a dashboard of action and the impact in terms of CO2 emission reduction. We have that climate plan, but we are acting every day, of course. We have an energy, for example, an energy cadastral plan for the entire municipal building stock that represent 125 sites. and 90% of the areas benefiting from heating systems, and priority given to public social housing, of course. For the territory, we have a first renewable energy community and lots of other things, but I can't talk about everything. And about adaptation, we have a tree plan with studies to maximize revegetation in urban Eats Island and is in treeless streets. Also, street and squares renovation with a high revegetation ambitions, and also a participatory initiative to revegetate public spaces with residents' participation. About water, we have a technical study to develop actions for trees and plants in public parks to be more resilient during heat waves and be less dependent from artificial watering. About air quality, we have now a yearly Excel Air Quality Week, raising awareness campaigns, acquisition of mobile air quality sensor that we have to test now, and actions to improve air quality in black spots. From Harmonia, we are, of course, interesting with Harmonia to collect the necessary data to develop more resilient environment and climate-friendly urban development strategies, and also to identify the most accurate and targeted ways to take action and make the best use of our limited resources. Thank you for your attention.
Right, thank you very much, Mrs. Lust, for this introduction, and I'm really happy to see a presentation that didn't mention the word space or Earth observation in a single slide. So thank you very much for that perspective. I'd like to move over to our next speaker here in the room. So Evangelos, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Remco. So it's a nice opportunity to be here and talking with coordinator of Harmonia. So I'm here as a representative of Eiffel Project, which is a sister project of Harmonia, funded under the same call. So it makes very much sense to be here together and discuss also about the synergies. So I'll try and introduce myself actually to build a story around how we were inspired about the specific urban application that we are having in Eiffel. So I'm a research director at the National Observatory of Athens, which means that my groups and groups from my colleagues are those that are producing data and delivering services, Earth observation-based services in the different domains, including climate change. I also stand as the director of the Greek Geo Office, which means that within the duties of my group are to coordinate, act as a focal point at the national level and coordinate the key players of Earth observation in the country, which is a very important aspect if you want to bridge the different scales in this chain. And I'm also the co-chair of the GEOS program board, which is also something important because things are happening at the global level, and sometimes this information and these capacities do not reach the local level, and vice versa, the local level needs might not reach, the high decision centers, so that these interactions can be efficient. And finally, just for the specific topic that we are talking about, fighting climate change, I'm also a member of the National Climate Change Experts at the ministerial level in Greece, which also shows the necessity to have an interface between the policy-making centers at the national level, how these requirements reach down to the research level, and whatever information and outcomes and products can be delivered to go up and then drive decision making. So, having said that, I'll very briefly in 2 slides introduce the Eiffel project and the relevance to today's discussion, hoping that it's going to be fitting and feeding the discussion later on. Next, please. Nice. So the coordinator of the Eiffel project is ICCC. Not this one, the previous one. Yeah, thank you. So, Eiffel in a nutshell. It's a project which there are 19 partners from 8 European countries. The good thing is that we have 9 universities and research centers, 5 SMEs, and 5 stakeholder organizations, which is important. So the regional and local authorities were deeply involved from the early on in the project, in the co-design of the applications, etc., which was, I consider, a very big advantage for projects. So technically, what the project is trying to do is to exploit Earth observation, and in particular the capacities provided by the GEOS platform and other platforms, in order to see how it can assist in mitigation and adaptation measures towards climate change. Without sticking to the technical details, the Eiffel project is going to develop and use a specific data augmentation tool to improve, for example, temporal resolution and spatial resolution, which is very important for the urban domain, cognitive research tools to enable users more efficiently find what they are looking for at databases so complex, as we have in GEOS, and then through a co-design approach, try to address specific societal benefit areas, which in our cases are distributed around 5 pilot cases. So I have the honor to be the leader of the Sustainable Urban Development Use case, which I will introduce in the next slide. So, the story behind this comes from the Ministerial Committee, when at some point they introduced the new climate law in Greece and the plan for energy and climate and the targets by 2030. And then there were 3 priorities. Improve energy efficiency of buildings by 38%, increase in renewables penetration to more than 35%, and transition of fleets to electric cars at a point of 30%. So this was the message that we got from the policy making, and we tried to see how Earth observation can really contribute designing this strategy. So respectively, in these 3 domains, we are now exploiting Earth observation to improve the Hellenic typology of buildings, like the precise location of a building, information about the building height, shadowing, and other geometries that are important for those people, for those experts to improve the building stock, so that they can measure, then they can decide and propose measures to increase the efficiency of the buildings and thus reducing their carbon footprint. Moving to renewables, again, use Earth observation information about cloud motion, about the presence of aerosol and other atmospheric components that really determine the solar radiation that reaches the surface. And so if you combine this with the free areas on top of buildings, then you can really deliver now an output, an estimate of the production of energy that you can have from solar radiation. And then with respect to the cars, we will be using models to actually change the fleet of the vehicles towards the targets and see with different combinations what this footprint can also be. And at the same time, utilizing city-scale modeling for the co-benefits, as we discussed yesterday, like air pollution coming from all those sources, and have a complete picture, and which will be incorporated in a decision support system, so that the decision makers can really play with the different components and see what's going to be the impact of the interventions that they are planning. So this is it all in all, and I hope, it's going to be fitting our discussion. Yep.
So thank you very much, Evangelos. So for our 4th speaker, we go back online. So Dimitri, I would like to give the floor to you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody from Athens, Greece. Hopefully you're hearing me.
We hear you perfectly. Thank you. Floor is yours.
So first of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation and for being kind enough to involve me in such a great ecosystem. My name is Dimitri Banousis. I'm an urban planner and researcher at Pantheon University. My research interest has always been connected with planning and environmental policies. At first, I focused on terrestrial spatial planning and continued by shifting my interest from the terrestrial to the marine environment from a spatial perspective. So additionally, I'm holding also the position of Green Fund's environment expert, providing technical assistance to the national contact point of Greece and the beneficiaries on the EU LIFE program for the environment and climate action. And under this hat, let me please put a few words about the Green Fund in case you don't know about this entity that I'm representing today. The Green Fund is actually a public law entity reporting to the Hellenic Ministry of Environment and Energy. Its purpose is to enhance development through environmental protection with the management, financial, technical, and financial support of programs, measures, and interventions aimed at promoting and rehabilitating the environment, supporting the country's environment and climate policy, and serving of public and social interest. So actually, the Green Fund is responsible for creating programs to finance measures and actions aimed at protecting, upgrading, and enhancing the environment as part of the environmental energy policy, assessing and selecting and monitoring the proposals and programs to be funded and ensuring their implementation, of course, and putting into place the procedures necessary to select individual implementing organizations for the above actions and agreeing with them on the terms and conditions under which such measures will be funded under the green resources. So it has approximately a total budget of 134 million euros. And considering that resources are actually absolutely necessary when implementing climate-related activities in the urban environment, I strongly believe that the Green Fund, as a key player in the Greek context, can create actually synergies with the Harmonia Project. So that was it, very briefly, in order to give the floor for a vital conversation.
Okay, thank you very much, Dimitri. And again, thank you for not talking about space and Earth observation specifically. And this is really what Harmonia, to a large extent, is about. It is crossing this bridge, crossing this divide between the EO world, the Earth observation bubble, if you like, and the real world. And this has been the topic for the last days, and I'm really happy that we have the opportunity now to have both sides of that equation represented here. So I'm going to ask the first question to you, Mrs. Lust, if I may, about this unique opportunity that we have here to cross this bridge. So I would like to ask you, and you have mentioned that a little bit already in your introduction, but how do you see the role of space data in your daily challenges in keeping your city livable and attractive for your citizens? What do you expect from Harmonia? And I really want everybody here in the room, people who are part of the EO bubble, to listen very carefully and also listen to the language that Mrs. Lust and Dimitri are using in this context, because this is what we talked about yesterday. And I'm really interested in hearing your perspective. So, Mrs. Lust, if you can.
Yes. So yes, we need to collect the data to develop more resilient environments and climate strategy, and also to identify as I said, the most accurate and targeted ways to take action. And we talk about air quality, but I'm also interested to have information about building from an energy point of view, of course, and information also about trees. I don't know if it's possible, and trees in matters of health, numbers, distribution on the territory, and so on. So air quality is important to us, but also other tools.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would actually like to ask Dimitri the same question, if I may. Is how do you see the role of space data in your daily challenges as an urban planner and in the context of the Green Plan?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for the question. Let me please share my experience from Green Fund and funded projects over here. You know, there is always a debate about how technological progress is faster when comparing to progress on regulating and states' decisions. This is quite obvious in the context of the Green Fund. You know, initiatives directly linked to Earth observations are not among those funded by the Green Fund so far. So this is quite challenging. Maybe the Life and BIOS project, which is not implemented actually in the urban environment, since it introduces an innovative tool for biodiversity conservation by creating a national biodiversity database in the form of a free access geoportal. But in any case, data, I will agree totally with the other speaker, is absolutely necessary on a daily basis, and it's quite essential when building and implementing a project.
Okay, thank you very much. And I really like the fact that you talk about data, because we've been talking about space data all the time, but you talk about data, and I think there is a lesson in here. So I'm going to switch back to Harmonia and Eiffel, if I may, Evangelos. So Harmonia looks at two aspects of urban resilience specifically, and you alluded to that as well, Julia, but how can Earth observation support resilience in cities, specifically looking at the risks of climate change in cities, but also aspects like heat islands and air quality?
Okay, good. Yeah, first of all, there was a progress. No data reference, data reference. So we will move to Earth observation reference at some point, which is good. But I think this language actually gives us what is the situation. The stakeholders need data, and we are the ones which need to deliver to them the information and the knowledge about what data is available. As soon as this is accomplished, then we need to go a little bit deeper into the details to define exactly what we call essential variables, the data that they can use and see how they fit their everyday workflows. As soon as we get at this stage, I think we are really making progress. So yes, for most of the aspects that have been raised here, Earth observation can really help. You mentioned urban heat island. So we had the opportunity, and actually in Athens, this is something quite mature to provide information about the urban heat island effect. So the mapping of heat at the surface of the city to the authorities. This is a very helpful information for them, because also it combines with very many other aspects for them, like greening policies, like information about traffic, all those interventions that should make in order to combat the problem of urban heat island. Similarly to other areas, like for example, I heard Audrey saying air quality. So this is the title. So it's our role to come and tell them that, okay, we have these opportunities. We have satellite information that you can get, for example, NO2 at relatively high spatial resolution, and show the maps that you can get for a city out of this, and how it could be useful to realize hotspots in the city. And then you have sensors that they were also mentioned. So we can demonstrate other good practices of deploying networks of sensors, like, for example, we have in Athens, explain that you can get PM 2.5, which is particles coming from those sources, NO2, which is a gas coming from those sources, and again, then use and fuse this information with satellites to deliver a very detailed, let's say, layer about air quality. Imagine the same process happening in different layers for the everyday decision-making of a city that will enable the stakeholders, you know, to build the whole picture.
I want to ask you, in addition to what you said, something triggered me. You said, we are telling the cities about the opportunities of Earth observation. To what extent are the cities themselves listened to? We are telling them about the opportunities, but are these solutions really solving the real problems? How do you ensure that we are solving real problems instead of coming with solutions to things that may not be problems?
Yeah, true. As we said, also we discussed yesterday, we shouldn't go, and we don't go as sellers of Earth observation information. We are trying to be part of the solution, so we understand the problem, but most importantly, the process that they are undertaking in order to solve the problem. So we are trying to deliver ready to uptake components for the solution that they envision, so that they make they make it also their own ownership, the advantages behind this stuff. So this is probably the best approach.
Okay, I will check that with our speakers online in a minute, but first I would like to go back to Julia, if I may. An important element of the Harmonia project is not just building the technical platform, but is to raise awareness of Earth observation solutions for climate challenges in cities. So how does the project work on this awareness? More specifically, who needs to be more aware of these solutions in order for these solutions to better fit in the urban development communities?
I think it's very important to have a closer relationship. We still have, but with the municipalities to understand the needs of them in order to manage to raise awareness. All the municipalities have, as Mrs. Loest mentioned earlier, they have participatory activities. So we need these let's say, associations, these NGOs that they're doing the participatory activities with us. We need to have them as stakeholders. We do have some, but we need much more closer to work with them and to come with some interesting conclusion. As for the Earth observation data, Mr. Loest earlier mentioned about the tree planting, that they are doing different measurements, the street and squares, the air quality sensors that they already have. We need to have all of this data together and with the Earth observation to manage to create this platform. So we need a really close collaboration, and we already established, but we need to establish further in order to manage to use finally the municipalities, our platform, with the best way.
Okay, thank you. Evangelos, may I ask you the same? How do you think this awareness can be reached, and how can we make sure that the right people become aware?
Yeah, I would probably go along the same vein as Julia here, but I would probably give more attention to the process. So the right stakeholders, the key people, are those mentioned here. I think early engagement is part of the solution. So what you more frequently listen as drawbacks, as obstacles to have this process beginning is two things. First, do not disturb our current workflows. There is some fear about the new obligations that would this probably raise to the authorities. And the second one is the lack of resources or technical skills. So as soon as we are, as Earth observation community, able to convince that, first of all, we can provide the technical support and provide some end products ready to use by them, first one. And second, as soon as we are able to convince them about the benefits that they will come from making some changes into the current workflows, like reducing cost, making it more speedy, making it more efficient for the decision-making, more visible to the citizens, which come back as positive, I think then the whole package would be, optimal.
If you can turn it off, yeah. I think we should ask an urban planner that same question, perhaps. So Dimitri, can you chime in on this awareness thing? How aware are you of the solutions that specifically Earth observation offers to the problems that you're dealing with?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm considering some bad examples when solutions are developed only on a lab scale. So you have to involve the stakeholders. The city is a part of this solution, so it has to be involved in such a solution. In that sense, here in the Green Fund, we have established a new annex called Research and Implementation. And a new call is being published, focusing on universities and research centers as beneficiaries, and with the municipalities being as co-beneficiaries in order to implement these solutions. All these solutions intend to fund projects related to climate change. And of course, as I mentioned before, data and space data, if you prefer, are absolutely necessary in order to have successful implementation.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to pass the question to Mrs. Lust as well. How well informed do you feel about these solutions that Julia and Evangelos just talked about?
Well, I think it's really interesting. And I think it really could help us to take action. And well, I'm waiting to have more information about what kind of data I could have, and it will help me to act in a good way, in a good manner, and yes, I am really interested.
Thank you. I'm going to stay with you, if that's okay with you, with a follow-up question. So Harmonia focuses on the effect of climate change in the different pilot cities and in cities in general. Just as a reality check, how high is urban climate resilience really on the political agenda in a city like Ixelles?
It's the first point I say. It's really important because you see we have heat waves, and we have lots of problems. I didn't show all the slides I made, but we have lots of examples of problems we have to face, and it's my first my first goal is to respond to all those problems. Yeah.
Now, as one more follow-up question, if I may. It's something you mentioned in the beginning, is you're looking at, and I can see if I can quote you, yes, you're looking at the benefits from Harmonia to help you also work with the limited budget that you mentioned that you have. Do you see solutions from satellite data as a way to maybe be more efficient in developing these solutions?
Yes, and probably to focus on action that will be the more effective. So yeah, it could help me to choose between lots of actions and to focus on 1, 2, or 3 of them. Yes, it's interesting also for that. Yeah, of course.
So Dimitri, same question, reality check. From a Greek government point of view and from the Green Fund point of view, how high is urban climate resilience in comparison to other issues in society?
Okay, thank you. Well, the story here in Greece is totally different. I mean, we had firstly the financial crisis, then the COVID outbreak, like the rest in the world. Now the war and its effects, that puts actually climate change pretty low in the agenda. That's the actually reality check. So here in the Green Fund, we're putting all our efforts in order to climb up the climate change in the agenda and fund solutions in order to produce actually environmental impact. But that's the story here in Greece.
Well, I appreciate your honesty, and that's probably what we need to hear sometimes, is that we're not always the most important thing in the world, but we can help making things more efficient. Others, would you like to chime in on the same question, Julia or Evangelos? Julia?
I would like to take actually the chance to say to Dimitris that for us as Harmonia, but I think for Eiffel as well, it's a very good chance because he's representing the policy of the green policy on the environment of Greece, and we have one of the most polluted cities in Piraeus in Greece. So Evangelos also has the Attica region that is much more larger, including Piraeus as well. So we would like from him to hear us and bring also the results in the other cities of Greece, that what finally the Earth observation can offer in the air pollution, in the heat island, how things can change in the climate change effect. So, I mean, this is something that I didn't think from the beginning, but I think this is very good to come up also, since we have a representative from municipality, but we have also a representative from Greece. So, I mean, it's important to point out also that.
Evangelos?
Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to first agree with Dimitris that at the national level, let's say the prioritization it might have changed. However, we shouldn't neglect the fact that the cities themselves, in the background, they are preparing for this. Let me remind you that there are already 6 cities that have been included in this 100 cities, resilient cities in the program. So it means that they are taking action in this direction and they are preparing. And many of them are already, in contact with projects like the ones that we are talking about. And we are trying to build all this frame and networks and capacity that is needed in order to monitor the KPIs. So let's keep that in mind, because there is something coming, and when the conditions allow to bring it out, it will certainly come. So let's not be let's be optimistic, about this. If I may come a little bit to the awareness issue, I have a buzzword here, and the buzzword would be imitation. One city, when it sees some good example from another city, then it's highly possible that they would like to follow up with it. So it's important that we build very successful, but in a professional way, bring good storytelling and use cases that we can use to approach the cities, and then the cities themselves to disseminate throughout. There are networks of cities, European, global. So we need to put this discussion in their own agendas, because I suppose, and I'm sure that this is going to create a snowball effect at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. And I like these very short words. So thank you for bringing us that keyword, because that helps to remember what's being said here. I'm going to switch to the questions that were asked online, and actually we got quite a few good questions in that fit in with a question that I was going to ask. I'm going to combine a few things, if that's okay. The first question is, how will the Harmonia platform connect to other EO services that are not part of the project? And this is an issue. Often solutions are built that are very specific to one or two problems in one or two cities and are not integrated with other data platforms. And another thing that we saw yesterday in the discussion with the EO evangelist, one of the issues that we see a lot in observation data platforms is that when we try to bring these data platforms to the users, it doesn't fit in with the data platforms that exist in, for example, cities. So, how does the Harmonia platform look at integration with other data sources, but also with the systems that cities are already using for their urban development, and how to make that work?
Yes, actually, we are trying to get, as I said, not only all the data that also the cities are using. For example, urban planning data, social data, of course, not only the GEOS and Copernicus and the ESA data, so also with the local and regional and national statistical data that they have been used. We are trying to understand better the needs of each municipality by questioning, let's tell, or by receiving, having more information from the decision makers, from the municipalities, from the administrators, from the urban planners, and we're trying all this data to be used. For example, as I was hearing today, it was a very good discussion, and thank you very much for this opportunity to Mrs. Loest, that she said that there is a need for the city about the tree plants, about the street and squares, about all of their quality. I mean, we are like we are doing that. We are using the air pollution data, the heat island data, but at the same time we are using the urban index data, urban green index data. So we need to have these changes that you are doing at the moment at the green areas, and we can, together with the Earth observation data, we would like to create this platform with the best way and to be able to be used from the for all the users. We are going to do actually to raise awareness, so the citizens are waiting for that.
Okay, thank you. And I will go back to Mrs. Lust for a few remarks specifically on that, but I'd like to ask a data specialist. So Dimitri, how do you see that platforms like Harmonia that's being developed, how well do they integrate with other data sources, and most importantly with data sources that the Greek government in your case can readily use?
Of course, like I mentioned before, data are absolutely necessary. So any project producing data and producing this kind of forms are welcomed, and we are looking for creating synergies, as Julia said before, in order to communicate this initiative to a wider audience, to more municipalities.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Lutz, I would like to ask you the same question about how does data from sources like Harmonia, how well does that fit in with your existing processes within your municipality? In other words, how usable is this information potentially? And also linking to one of the questions that we see on screen right now, which I think is interesting, how do you take these capacity building activities, if you like? So how do you train the municipality staff in, first of all, being more aware, but also using these new data sources coming from space or elsewhere into your existing processes and systems?
Well, I don't know yet, because I don't have those data at the moment. So that's why I like to receive informations, and it will provide me and permit me to see how to use it exactly. And now I'm not able to respond at that question, and I also it will also be interesting, of course, to talk about that with my staff, and then we see how to work with that, to include those new information. I got information from the region. I know that some administration in Brussels have certain information, certain data that we try to collect. Well, I don't know yet, but I think we'll have to think about the best way to collect all those data to work in the best perspective, of course.
Okay, thank you very much. In the interest of time, if you have something really short, then...
Very short. I mean, I would just like to tell to Mrs. Lois that if she thinks that we can add or we can do some other actions more than that we present for Excel, we're happy to do it. For example, urban greening or air pollution, please let us know, and we will try to implement also for Excel's more data, more focuses area like we have from the one that we have now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much for those insights. It's 3 o'clock. We've gone through our time, so I would like to thank, first of all, our speakers. So thank you, Dimitri, for giving you the insights from the Greek point of view. Thank you, Mrs. Lust, for giving you the opportunity, the insights from one of the pilot cities in the Harmonia project. And thank you to my panelists, Evangelos and Julia, for your insights from inside the Eiffel and Harmonia project. I really liked the fact that we tried to speak the same language. Literally, we spoke English, but we heard the different terms that we heard from our speakers online. I really liked to hear about trees and water and revegetation, because that's really what matters to the citizens in the cities. And that's ultimately what all these projects are about. So thank you very much for giving us that insight, for crossing that bridge between Earth observation and the real world. And thank you very much also to the people in the room and our listeners online for following.
Thank you.
And over to the next. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.